welcome to a Astrato product showcase with myself. Um, Good morning to our friends in the US. Good afternoon to our friends in Europe. I'm very, very excited today, to show you and tell you a little bit about Astrato, the product, and actually more than nothing, then show you also the product live in action. I think seeing is believing, and hopefully some of the use cases that I will work for you will be at minimum inspiring, if not at least give you a lot of ideas how you can enhance, enrich, and expand your data analytics use cases within your organizations. So I'm moving on. So this is about Astrato. I think some of you may have heard us about before. Some existing customers are, I think, here on the call. And for those of you who've never ever heard about us, we are a self-service cloud-native BI tool that focuses very much so on a very familiar field. However, is built and born in the cloud to leverage the power of a cloud and all the use cases that come alongside with it. We connect to the most popular data warehouses, Snowflake, Databricks, BigQuery, and we're also accredited partners with a few of them, and more coming as well. So before I start, I'm going to reiterate a little bit the announcement that we shared a few weeks ago that we've just raised a $5 million in seed funding led by our friends, Big Pie Ventures, but also, alongside I think about 24 angel investors in the BI space together. So it's a great vote of confidence, but moreover, I'm very, very excited of, what we're building and what we're going to build next. So by means of introduction, for those who've never heard about me, I'm the founder and the CEO of Astrato Analytics, and I'm actually German, and this is a German in their natural habitat, Oktoberfest, which I highly recommend. But ever since I came out of university, where I studied rocket science or nautical engineering, I literally spent all my career so far in BI. And Astrato Analytics, even though it's a relatively young company, it's not the first company, it's not the first role, not just for me, but also for the team at Astrato. We actually founded Vislib, which was a visualization add-on on top of Click that we made incredibly successful. And we're taking all the lessons and the learns and also are betting on the future in the cloud with Astrato, but more to that shortly. So as I mentioned, it's not the first time we're working with BI. We ultimately have been quite closely to the BI user for many, many years and decades, as a matter of fact, not just myself, but many, many employees at Astrato as well. And the mission is to replicate the best of what we have seen of what the users need, what the modern analytics users need with Astrato itself. So you'll be seeing a lot of things that are quite familiar. And that's intentional because there's a lot of things that have been done quite well. However, in a modern cloud architecture is where things get extremely exciting. And the biggest theme is around self-service BI, where we have our own take on how it is actually finally solved for the cloud. So we can be found under various landscapes under the BI category. This is under the Snowflake ecosystem map. Other independent, I would say, category assessors are putting us more closer to the visualization platform alongside Google Data Studio, Power BI. I think somewhere in between is the truth, although I would say, we are actually quite similar intentionally, but then different to Tableau and Power BI in particular. So because we do data presentation and we do it goddamn well. And visualizations come in many shapes and forms, some of which I will show to you. But of course, tables is a very, very important aspect. And if you can recognize it on the screen on the bottom left, also the ability to enter data right back into your dashboard where you're seeing the data, which opens up a whole new set of use cases around actionable analytics. So pleasant to the eye, presentable is our key value proposition, but not just on the UI, but also architecturally is where we are innovating by not building our own kind of BI engine and instead leveraging the existing work you have done, the existing power of vendors such as Snowflake and BigQuery. And you can think of us a little bit as a nice little tablecloth. We try to illustrate this with his diagram, where we're sitting on top of your data infrastructure, and we're basically like allowing your users to engage with your data in an already very business friendly and familiar way, which comes in many forms, from alerting, Gen AI, reporting to PDF, dashboards. Some of this I'll showcase. But the most important is your data never leaves Snowflake or BigQuery or your data sources. We are presenting them all on the fly. And that's an innovation of push down query or live query, which adheres to the zero copy kind of architecture paradigm of no data movement. There's no need to move data, copy data in the cloud into your BI tool, and that opens up a whole new set of possibilities that I will speak about shortly. Um, the reason why self-service BI has been a dream that was not necessarily easy to achieve for many years, although everybody aspires to that, is because legacy BI platforms solved the problem in an on-premise world where they didn't have the flexibility of today's modern data warehouses. So instead of playing with the warehouses, traditional legacy BI tried to take the data out of a warehouse and allowed you to ingest, to store, to transform before you could even present it, which is ultimately the presentation and visualization is what business users want to live in. However, they always required to focus a lot of time on the data operation side, not just time, but a significant amount of skill set. In the cloud, things are changing. One thing that is changing is that the difficult part of transforming, storing, ingestion is happening now in the cloud data warehouses. It is happening there anyway because it needs to be done there in order to move it there. However, at the same time, the data is being prepared and is being configured and secured, more importantly, not just for BI usage, but for wider organizational usage from platforms such as ML's, Dataiku, and others. So since it's already being done, the difficult stuff, I would say, Astrato offers a very lightweight layer to connect to the work in the warehouse and then leverage the UI to offer business users an easy way to consume the data, to build with the data without having to write any sort of code or doing any sort of data pipelines or data transformations. So by simplifying the architecture significantly, we are able to focus Strato on what the business wants, which is building light applications, but also now with the ability of the cloud to do more than just analytics, to venture into new use cases such as ML, GenAI, Python, and also writeback for operational. Um, Obviously, BI is a wide, very big space, and so I would like to narrow down like for whom Astrato is actually extremely relevant at this stage. Even though everybody has a use case for dashboards and analytics, and we welcome any customer of any size in any vertical. The ways where Astrato excels at the moment are three areas. One of them is customer-facing analytics, which is actually a rising area where a lot of organizations who are sitting on a lot of valuable data are thinking to themselves, "Hey, how can I monetize my data in a way that it can, bring value to my organization?" And data on its own without analysis is actually not so valuable. So the way to wrap it up in a almost in a present paper or wrapping paper is to use a Strato and a business-friendly UI such as Strato to ultimately improve and create a product out of data. So a lot of organizations, for example, who have a product offering, they're enhancing it with analytics. It makes their usage more sticky, but at the same time, it also allows them to differentiate, for example, with competitors. And some organizations that we work with, which is incredibly inspiring, is they're building entire SaaS products out of the ability to build dashboards with analytics. One such case I'd like to call out is Analytics, who are inviting wineries to import their data into their data platform, and then they are basically giving them access to very deep analysis around their sales distribution and inventory management and much more. Um, so that's a very, very interesting space. If you have data you want to monetize and you're thinking about it, Astrato would be an incredible fit there. We have a lot of experience. The most obvious one is modernizing your BI stack. I'm not going to go too much into detail there, but for organizations who have adopted, who've moved to the cloud, they have adopted Snowflake, ClickHouse, Databricks, have modernized the entire data architecture, ready to, drive a transformation to become a data-driven organization. And now the last part of that modernization is the presentation layer, the BI stack, which obviously with existing traditional BI technologies is limited. With Astrato, you get the power of the cloud and you modernize it. And that's where we are extremely capable of being native to those data warehouses. And of course, self-service BI that you see for organizations who feel the business users have more and more demands. There's only one IT team. We cannot scale internally. How about you offer them a very simple solution with drag and drop, doesn't require coding, that is and doesn't require you to write set analysis or DAX. These are the three areas that we're extremely attracted in. So enough around slides. I think that was important to give you some context. I'm very, very excited to dive into the product itself, and I'll focus on a lot of things that are familiar intentionally. Differentiation, where we go beyond what is out there, unique new ways of delivering self-service BI. And of course going beyond traditional dashboarding with writeback and also Python and advanced analytics. Of course, Gen AI will be part of the demonstration as well, because I do think it will transform BI from two angles. One, for it will support your analysis, which I'll demonstrate, but more importantly, it will help you also accelerate the self-service BI experience with supporting you in building visualizations or data models and connecting to the data in a very seamless way. So one thing on Astrato is that it is same, right? We made sure that the experience of drilling down, analyzing data, seeing and clicking into data that you find interesting is seamless as you're already used to. You have a selection panel at the top that allows you to see all your selections. You can drill down in filters if you want to. So it's quite flexible, because the reason is we replicated the best of Tableau, Click, and Power BI in a single UI that you see here, because they've done a great job. So we don't want to change existing behaviors. We want to replicate them as a baseline and then take it further beyond the limitations what we feel existing legacy platforms had. So there's a lot of flexibility with Astrato. You have the ability to style things however you like. I personally think this is one of the most understated value propositions of a BI visualization platform, to be able to be highly customizable. I think having full control over branding, the presentation, matters to achieve different designs, be it for a dashboard, be it for a mobile view, but also having the ability to color and control every single bit you see on the screen. For those of you who know the Visip story, this was actually one of the things that made it most successful. It didn't necessarily have better visualization, had more customizable visualization in most of the cases. And that is something we made sure as an ethos we replicated in the journey with Astrato, because at the end of the day, good looking dashboards is what communicates data the best. Dashboards that look good and are organized are engaging, and honestly, if it's presented in an organized way, people trust the numbers. So UI and UX is a very important part, and we made sure that we replicated whatever is the best practice out there, instead of reinventing the wheel and trying to change behaviors. Now, of course, the journey with Astrato is not just simple dashboarding as we are used to, but we know and we have thought about ways how we can go and meet the user in more ways that how they're ultimately using analytics on any given day. So one such case is, which I found quite interesting, is like, most of the dashboards are probably used to see a bunch of KPIs, as I can see here on my advertising channel example. You see the KPIs. Most users want to log in, see the numbers, see if they're up, or if they're down, and if they're up, I want to see why. So So you have that neatly presented here in an organized way, but as you're spotting some insights, that's where there's the beginning of a story. So we're looking at the cost for Bing, and we find that quite interesting because it's the lowest, but we cannot see the revenue by year for this traffic source. It's not available in any of the visualizations I can see on the screen or on my table. So what users end up to is, hey, can I export this to Excel? And then they build their Excel pivots with it, which, by the way, would work. We're not breaking the floor. Flow, if you want to do that, then you're very well welcome. But what would you do? You would build this Excel pivot, or you would go to your BI developer or analytics expert. You'd say, hey, can you please add one more column for me? Or can you please add this one more chart for me? And best case, the team delivers and you end up with a bloated dashboard. Worst case, it gets up in the backlog. So people are not really data driven. So for that, they have now an Astrato, the custom report. So the custom report is an object that sits on the published data set that is the same as the dashboard that we see here. And I'll show you later how to build one as well. That allows a user of any skill level to explore the data as if they're going shopping. You see, we have like 100 KPIs. Impossible to show that in different variations of the dashboard itself. So you have the ability to browse through them, and especially when it comes to periodic and calendars, you have the ability to add whatever is most interesting to you that is relevant to either a question or a business case, or maybe you just want to create this view for you personally, so you can ultimately look back to it and you use your dashboard just to reuse effectively your analytics here. So I'm quite happy with this view, and I want to save this for myself so I can come back to it. So bookmarks is a very well way for you to store your configuration and to come back to it. Or if you want to, you can share it with some colleagues by allowing you to create almost like a little microcosmos of micro ecosystem where your team can, on their own, without having to go behind the scenes of a dashboard, collaborate on the data and share producible reports. Now, that can be a pivot table. It could also be a bar chart, right? So if you want to build some visualizations, you have the ability. I think actually quite interestingly is a heat map, because especially as you're expanding across maybe more, data points, you can see points of interest that are highlighted, especially if you want to look at campaigns by week. Here, this campaign actually on week 15 on a remarketing or website visitors was actually highly effective. So you can spot trends actually quite efficiently. So just like shopping in a supermarket, you don't know what you're looking for. I just want to see all the data. I want to pick and choose so much is what allows you to do on a published data set without involving IT at all. Consumable BI for the people of all skill level. The power of Astrato is, and I can show you analytics and dashboards for ages almost. We have a strong focus on data presentation. So we have different visualization types, and all of them are nicely interactive. So as you're brushing and linking, you see the things being updated, just so the user experience is quite, pleasant to the eye. But I think, there's a lot of debate around animations. And I think it's a very important factor to be able to show so how the data is changing as you're drilling down and as you're changing it. Now, one thing that is actually quite interesting is coming back to simplifying the UI and making the product easier to consume. Is we have a little insight advisor here at the top right. So over here we have the ability for the non-technical staff who gets confused by those beautiful Sankey charts, or perhaps the lifetime metrics. They don't understand it quite and they want this summarized. So we will have the ability to create a short summary and have an analysis being produced to you in text form. And that ultimately will help you to kind of understand the data a little bit better, or maybe use it as a copy to kind of put it into a Teams chat or into an email if somebody has asked a specific question. And there's many ways, right? You can look at trends, or you can analyze the entire dashboards if you want to, or maybe even surprise me in also different languages, but I'll stick to English given the audience is mostly English here. So surprise me around the Sankey chart. Haven't tried it out myself, so let's see what this will help me with. Um, Intriguing trends in the bike market across different countries. So you see, it could help potentially spot more insights than a visualization could. And very soon, and we'll show that at Snow Summit, you'll have the ability to chat with it directly using Snowflake Cortex, which will make it even more easier to consume. Now, that can be a little assistant, right? That can be activated on a workbook level, or you also have the ability to have it, as part of the experience. Because why not? Why do we always have to just have visualizations? We can have visualizations alongside a report that's being generated dynamically on the data that is visible. Again, not everybody likes or understands or prefers reading charts, and you might also sometimes miss something, hence why having it alongside a analysis could actually be quite important and useful. And that analysis, of course, being updated on the fly. So as I drill down into Germany, it will be regenerated, analyzing, my Germany revenue distribution data. Now, since this report insights is part of the experience, um, actually, where this becomes quite good and extremely valuable is if you use it as part of Astrato's report generation. So Astrato has the ability to, as you are selecting different values, to either dynamically, which I'm going to do now, or on a scheduled basis, to generate a report. Now, the report will then look at your selections, it will look at the report and then at the dashboard, and then it will create to you a multi-page PDF that summarizes all various selections for you. I've already downloaded it, so we don't have to wait, but this is the example output where we have one page for every selection for North America, for Pacific, alongside a natural language generated summary on the right hand side. Brilliant for email distribution, automatically generated as well. And this is where this can become extremely helpful for the classic, mode one read-only reporting, which again brings me to the point with Astrato and generally our ethos. Instead of, battling static reports, we embrace them. They are part of a very important information distribution journey, and we make sure that we support those use cases and meet the users at the skill levels that they are at. Now, behind the scenes, if I were now to uh, play around and go into the workbook itself, I want to show you a little bit how it looks like as a draft. So this is how Astrata looks like behind the scenes. You see, that's not the dashboard that is currently published. Well, because this is a working version, I have the ability here to, position things anywhere I like on the screen. But actually, I just want to edit and create a copy of what I just saw. So I have the ability using Astrato's version history to come back to the published version and restore it. And, I'm actually not interested to save my current draft and then work on the current copy that is there. So versioning for better collaboration, but also, rollback and backing up and making sure you track the changes is automatically built in the platform itself as well. Now, that's all great on the UI. It's super easy to drag and drop, position anything you want on the screen. For somebody who is non-technical but knows how to use PowerPoint, they'll be able to find themselves here at home. We have a concept of dimensions and measures, which are relatively self-understanding, especially if you're a BI developer, that's bread and butter. But even for somebody who's not that technical, they'll be able to understand on, how to build a visualization, how to replace certain measures. So even if I wanted to edit a revenue measure, you could easily come here. Again, we don't support any kind of scripting language. It's all as if you are writing on a whiteboard where you can create brackets and move and modify anything you see on the screen. I'm not even using my keyboard right now here. Now, the interesting thing, and this is what makes Astrato kind of very important and unique to legacy vendors, and this is actually super important as you're looking to leverage the power of the cloud, is all the visualizations here are querying data on the fly. So if I were to right click on the line chart here, we would see in transparency what is being generated behind the scenes. And actually, this is a cache result. So we make use of Snowflake's incredible caching mechanism to ensure, you don't calculate the same thing twice. But the important thing is here that Astrato itself does not hold any data. It pushes down the SQL to Snowflake, and then Snowflake calculates the data, and then we are presenting the results back in real time. And that opens up a whole new paradigm, which has only been possible in the cloud. because Snowflake is incredibly fast. The reason why you couldn't push down your query to a warehouse was because it was slow and difficult to use. So with Snowflake, that problem is gone. So there's no reason not to use the Snowflake directly. And that simplifies also the entire architecture of the new modern data stack. As a matter of fact, you also have full edge, so you can jump right into the Snowflake query directly from here. So if you see and you have a question, where does the data come from, fully transparently, you don't have to look at load scripts, you don't have to look at transformations in Power Query. You just log back into Snowflake and you will see exactly where the query was executed, which tables it was used, and vice versa. And I'm going to come to that, which is very exciting. Your Snowflake admin, if you're a Snowflake admin or you're responsible for the Snowflake instance in your organization, you can see exactly what is happening around the consumption layer, and you have full telemetry for which we are providing a template dashboard to analyze. Now, that also means the power of Snowflake, small data, big data, there's no limitations at all. There is also security that is inherited in Snowflake. So if you set up your data security well done once at the data store, then you can inherit it with Astrato. So data level security is handled automatically, which makes it also centrally to manage. But the thing that I'm quite excited about, and this is where the use cases go beyond just traditional reading and analyzing, is this is SQL, and Snowflake speaks also has more workloads than SQL. You can actually write back to Snowflake, and you can also trigger Python workloads in Snowflake. So, and that goes all of a sudden beyond dashboards to what we think is the start of a category called data applications. So one such example is, and an actual use case is using people analytics, having the ability to drill down, seeing where the teams are split, see what the growth is. But you can also use the same interface to capture data, to add commentary in the same screen where you're analyzing the data. So I can say probation is approved, and you will see that as I'm submitting that record, it will become a part basically of the data set. Now, where you write it to, you got to do some business model to think about, but it'll be a separate schema. But the idea that you can capture data, you can act on data, you can comment data, you can correct data directly where you see the data in the same single application is a novel way, which is only possible with live query and pushdown SQL. By the way, because we're giving Snowflake so many flowers today, not because we have Joe Warmington on the call, but one other thing that the cloud offers, which I found revolutionary, is time travel. So data versioning, data history is handled with time travel in Snowflake, and you can use the Astrato UI to go back to the beginning of this webinar and actually see the version of the data or how it looked like at the beginning of it, where it was missing the comment effectively. So this is not a data backup strategy, but wherever you have operational workloads, operational things where a lot of data is changing, you have the ability to quickly see the version from last Friday. Again, all automatically baked in Snowflake and surfaced in Astrato in one view. Now that opens up a whole set of use cases. You can replicate very simple spreadsheets where you want to be able, have the ability to edit records. You can build your own kind of flow in there. So it is actually extremely flexible what this writeback will eventually allow you to do. Bear in mind, I mentioned spreadsheets. This is not a free-floating spreadsheet that anybody can change anything they like. The idea with Astrato is that you can build a very defined flow that is governed, secured, and guardrailed. That enables you to ultimately make sure that whatever the users are changing or updating is within the confines of what is allowed effectively. The same way you cannot just enter any records in your CRM application, the same thing you can constrain here in Astrato. One such use case, which is quite dominant, because it's the little cousin, I would say, of BI, is planning. So financial planning as a clear case. Imagine I'm a CFO or I work in the office of a CFO, and I want to use the data in Snowflake to do my analysis, to have like a dashboard that summarizes my KPIs in a nice way, but also tables and reporting, which is super important, that needs to be presented in a certain way. And now I want to work with my colleagues on actually doing the budgeting directly where I see the reports. So we have the ability to use writeback as an ability to say, look, we had a meeting today and I want to increase R&D because we are investing in Snowflake, Cortex, Gen AI use cases. So you see here, I can now use the UI to update the budget. But wait a minute. You see the comment got through, but the number didn't. Well, actually, because it hasn't been approved. So you can also build some very interesting multi-step workflows that require somebody else to come in to approve it for the numbers to ultimately, you know, get into the official budget itself. So anything that lives, I would say, today in a spreadsheet somehow, which is difficult, managed by a few users, there errors, can be productionized ultimately and streamlined into operational data application that blends both analytics and actions in one single view. Remember, I showed you the custom report. So, if I wanted to see the data from a different angle, I can still do that, right? It's an object that you can have at every single app. You can browse through the data sets, the income statements, and, almost build your own personalized reports. So it allows you, without being rigid trained, to explore the data in an absolute flexible way, however you like. Now, I've shown you the dashboard, I've shown you the planning capability. I have a custom report for self-service questions. Now, the thing is, you will never win the finance department unless I can get this view in Excel. And there's nothing wrong with it. They want to do different things in Excel. They want to share this in a certain way within the organization. So what we have, and we're unique in that perspective, we have the ability to generate templated Excel reports. So I will say product webinar financial report by Martin Mahler for Joe. Just so you see, this is all live and not pre-canned. I have the ability to send it, schedule it, or generate this on the fly. Now, what it's going to do is it is creating to feed from the data that is available now in Snowflake within this dashboard, and it's going to generate and populate for me a pre-canned Excel template that will adhere to the formatting standards and the presentation standards that I'm currently using it for. So you see it's available for download. This is not a data dump. This is literally a printed report that is ready for distribution. You see here fully dynamically populated. You see that the dashboard got included. We have an income statement, and not just as a table or as a screenshot, but you have the ability here to then, also sum it or maybe do some more further ad hoc analysis, including also for those who need it, like a full data dump if needed be. But the idea is this is a templated Excel report that ultimately is what will manage to replace manual processes of creating things like that on a manual stage for people for themselves. So if you are currently using or want to use Snowflake and you currently have to download the data to pre-populate a template, it's costing you probably a few hours, and that's if you don't do any errors, you can fully automate that. And that's the value proposition of Astrato. Is it a dashboard that's fully interactive? Is it writeback? Is it the ability to self-serve or deliver as a PDF? We are offering and distributing the data in a way that the users want to consume it in the most flexible way. Now, we have full, incredible, flexible applications. I'm going to skim through some of those use cases as well. I want to highlight as well, without diving too much into this, that geoanalytics and mapping is a very important use case. So you want to have the ability, and there's many ways to demonstrate a map. You want to have different kind of SVG segments, states. We have the ability to highlight some more information via a tooltip. So it's quite flexible as a platform. We have also, you see I drilled down and we see the next level here. But one thing that's quite cool is we also have directional pointers. So if you want to show flight delays or migration paths between different areas, you can point that, or even create like a little, train line to see how it moves. So, anywhere where you have geographical regional data that you'd like to have visualized, including, a floor plan such as, this London Luton Airport terminal density to see and analyze the foot traffic by overlaying a floor plan. There's a lot of flexibility what you can achieve with our mapping, and we try to find. This is a hospital use case, which I think we also have a floor plan for. Here we go. So we see the active, operating rooms that are currently open or occupied. So you can actually visualize it also with geoanalytics quite nicely. Now, one thing that is actually quite cool, where I mentioned, SQL workloads, and probably this is where you're using things most of the time, but with Astrato, you also have the ability to play with Python and Snowpark. So Snowpark is basically gives you the ability to execute Python workloads in Snowflake, and then Astrato can be the user interface that allows you to play with the parameters and rerun models and scenarios, such as advertising spend. Imagine I'm running a marketing campaign, and we have a very clever data scientist team that is ultimately has built a model that has shown all the past effectiveness of my advertising and allows me now to play around with some assumptions. What if I don't go after search engine and just focus on social media and put all my budget into email and social media? Based on past performance, what do you think is my prediction? Now, what it does is it takes my past performance, so it's not just a matter of hey, if this, then that, but it literally analyzes my past campaigns, and based on the allocation, will give me a predicted, revenue outcome. So great if there is a data science model out there that is reused by a lot of, or should be reused by a lot of business users, but it's difficult to get hold of a data scientist, and say, quite frankly, they don't have so much availability either. You can shrink wrap it into a nice little product that allows users of any skill level to come in, play with the parameters, and run various scenarios here over time. And that can be, a scenario analysis. Forecasting is a very clear example where I want to blend my analytics, but also have the ability to select certain things, see the current sales, but also use the input that I've selected to do maybe a 24 weeks forecast to ultimately create, how much inventory we need to order in order to cater to the potential seasonal forecast of sales that we anticipate. So there's various ways how you can play with that. And I think maybe to conclude on that front, the most common example is churn analytics. So if you think about telco communication, we have a lot of customers, and everybody's account director job is to make sure not just to see, analytics around their customers, but also have the ability to manage them effectively. So the data scientist has done a fantastic job and has allowed me to have pre-calculated a churn risk here based on usage, based on last renewal, term length. And I can easily see and sort it. I've selected my name because I'm the account rep, and I can select an account that I want to speak to. See, they have 26 support cases, a couple of feature requests. I mean, there's a lot of MRR here, so let's look at it in more detail. Now, you see here that the churn risk currently is 57%. So, I don't want to leave it to a coin toss if that customer is going to stay with me. I want to protect my revenue. Now, is there a way of, instead of waiting to hear from them, to proactively reach out to them and say, hey, listen, you have a lot of support cases and some really good feature requests. I think you're going to make the product better. It's going to take us some time to improve it. For that period of time, I would like to offer you, a discounted rate at a lower subscription value for time being, also to reflect a little bit, a little bit of goodwill. So you see, I've managed to reduce the risk now. As a matter of fact, I can go even lower, and you will see you can play around a little bit with this to find your optimum. Actually, I will still preserve some monthly recurring revenue by reducing it to 14%, which is actually, now I'm going to take this as an action and go and preserve the customer. So you can build some incredibly interesting use cases, blending Python with traditional analytics in one single view and giving your business users the ability to play with these scenarios and to ultimately, drive value for organizations. So it doesn't just end with analytics, it goes beyond traditional analytics and dashboards to actionable analytics with writeback or Python models and more. Just as a tiny little excursion, we spoke about real time. And there's a long debate, what is real time or what is not real time? How important is the time value of data? I would say it absolutely is. Obviously, every use case is unique, but this is an example here where we have call center analytics being produced and analyzed on top of data in Snowflake. So, if you want to have a wallboard or if real time is important, Astrato can be as real time as your Snowflake instance is. So that is another nice, interesting world of new use cases that were never before possible in BI, where you required reloads. Um, so wonderful. So with that, I have shown you a lot of product. I think I will do right now is to go and build something very shortly from scratch, so you see a little bit what the experience is as well. Um, so this is the Astrato tenant. It's currently quite populated. It's where we do a lot of demos and we build a lot of use cases, but you can organize them quite nicely and only certain people can see certain things. In my example, I'm going to look at a SAP data set. Now, why SAP? First of all, it's quite prevalent in a lot of organizations have SAP, and SAP data, SAP themselves, not exceptionally well at analyzing and reporting on their data, especially if you want to blend it with other data. So let's assume I want to create a new data connection. I already have created them, but the process of creating them would be relatively straightforward. Paste your URL, credentials, or if you have OAuth set up, you're authenticating here against your Snowflake instance. So you see that was a passwordless login, which I find mega exciting. I can see and browse the data sets that I want to explore, and I will create a new data set here. We have warehouse and role settings, but I'll keep it simple for now. Let me correct this to data connection. Now, it already exists, so I'm going to reuse the existing one so we try to be quite smart to make sure that you do not need to create multiple data connections. And here on the left-hand side, you would see whatever you would see in the world of Snowflake. A lot of schemas, all the data that you have access to, right? So it will not be everything that you necessarily that is available. You see here Iron Man and Marvel. This is one of the examples. So I'm quite interested to see what suit types there are. And let me preview the data. Quite interesting. So you can have a quick glance here what the data contains without having to do more. But rather than going on Marvel, I'll focus on something more exciting, which is an SAP dataset. Now, I'm going to look at the entire schema here. So you see there are a couple of tables that are connected, and I'm going to now define my semantic layer. And I intentionally chose SAP dataset because this is how it is being loaded out of SAP into typically into Snowflake in its first instance. So short abbreviation, nobody really knows what that means. Well, I'm German, so I can see Landort. So there's some indications here, but I cannot build analytics out of this. This is impossible. So number one is you gotta somehow rename the data. So for that we have AI. Now I'll come back to it in a second because it's analyzing it, but also we got to join the tables with each other. Now I have no idea what a join is, perhaps. Well, I do, but I don't know how to connect them. We are analyzing and scanning the things for you, and we are providing to connect the table without you having to require to do any kind of SQL or data modeling knowledge. So here we go. Connected the data, and it's all kind of now connected, so it works. However, AI is now currently working now to analyze the renaming for me. Here we go. And because this is a common data set, Gen AI in this instance will ultimately provide suggestions that I can, in this instance, just blindly accept. Of course, you got to look at it, review it. But in this instance, you see these are common names. So you can apply it all. And now with just a few clicks, again, haven't even used my keyboard, all these support of Gen AI, I have the ability now to have finally a analytics ready data set that I can explore and build upon. So before I go and build a dashboard, I want to have a quick glance at it just to familiarize myself a little bit. So this is the master data table set. Okay, let's look at net value. Okay, there's nothing there. I have the ability maybe to look at a different one. So let's look at sales documents, items. Here we go. Actually, sales documents, items, not overview. So you see there's slightly repetitive. And I'm going to count also the sales units. So you see here, I can do some very simple checks, aggregations, and by the way, at all points, if that's all you wanted to do, here's the query for you that we are producing that you can then copy paste and then reuse. However, I want to build, a short story. So before I do that, I want to create a couple of measures. Now, I kind of showed the measure creator earlier, but it's super flexible. It doesn't require you to write SQL. It allows you to build and as if you're writing on a whiteboard, create some measures without any skill sets or knowledge. So if I say currency equals euro, you see we have the ability to build something, and behind the scenes, we are ultimately, just generating SQL for you. Now I'll keep this one a little bit close it down because this is a common data set which has common metrics. And I asked for GenAI to help me. And for example, order fill rate is a classic KPI and measure. I don't know based on this data set how to create this, but we also have a little query generator here. So I can actually put it in there and let GenAI scan through the fields and create the measure that is most interesting and most relevant to me. So you see, it shows the right billing quantity, the order quantity, and it calculated the order fill rate for me. Great, brilliant. Let's maybe choose a new one, payment term compliance rate. Imagine you get the requirement from the business to build that KPI and you have no idea how to do that based on that data set. So you can just chuck it in here in the measure generator and it will look at it. And obviously the SAP data is quite common, so we'll recognize it alongside the dimensions and measures, and we'll have the ability for you to create things here dynamically on the fly. Obviously, you got to check and test if it's always correct, but you can always refine it if you need to. So that's the idea, which makes it even simpler. So you see this measure value is 0, null. Do you want to create the measure? Actually, maybe in this instance, I don't. So we try to capture it and make sure that it's fine. Maybe I'm going to add sales conversion ratio as a last one. But you see the idea is that it will help you translate business requirements into actual queries being generated with a lot of ease of use. So enough on the semantic layer. There's a lot of flexibility that can be achieved here, but the idea is with GenAI it becomes easier and simpler. And off I go to the wild venture of creating now a dashboard. So we start with a blank screen. We have some kind of templates, but in this instance, I want to go and just populate this. So I have here the ability to select from the dimensions and measures that are most relevant and interesting. So I'm going to choose country, and as a measure, we will choose net value. Here we go. Actually, maybe not that beautiful, so I do want to actually add city into it just to make it a little bit more verbose. Here we go, and I'll lose the country here on the fly. Here we go. Berlin, Paris, Boston, New York, Chicago. Would have known. Now, adding to this, a line chart is actually kind of important because you want to see, sales over time. That is a classic requirement. So I am going to use the billing time. I'm going to use billing as a single source of truth. Choose the billing date, and I'm going to choose then the sales. Now, the interesting problem perhaps is that since I have daily data points, this is actually not that easy to read. And actually, it maybe is also confusing a little bit because, hey, I want to look at this on a monthly basis. Now, I don't require any data modeling. With Astrato, we do give you the ability to quickly change and move into the different kind of calendar settings without you having to do anything on the data or even writing SQL. Behind the scenes, we are basically doing the transformation for you. And I'll add it here. But you know what? Actually, I'm not interested in the actual value, or maybe I am, but I will want to see also how it is changing over time. So I'm going to also duplicate the measure, and I'm going to show the growth. Um, that is obviously going to be quite small, so I have to put it on the secondary axis over here, which will allow me to see the growth period on period. Maybe visually that doesn't look quite good, so I'll just leave it to period on period growth here. And I'll put it back into the primary axis and make sure that we have it formatted as a percentage. Here we go. So now we have a period on period growth being visualized here. By the way, the most important things to make dashboards readable is to add titles. So generative AI can help you to add context in them. It reads the measures that you have, the source, and allows you to visualize things here with it and make it a bit more readable. You see here net revenue over time. Now I'll go a little bit quicker and I'll put a quick calendar and actually, how to go through the data, how to drill down, and how to select it actually is equally as important. So I'm going to make it a single calendar picker here. And the most favorite visualization I have is always a Sankey chart. So I do think it's important to include one of them here as well, because I want to see here how the material group is actually a number, material description. Let's get the actual sales data here now, is distributed across country and customers. So I need to choose now customer country. Oops, that actually did not work well because I didn't choose the right measure. So we go here, I believe, value. No. All right. Data set is not the easiest one, although I have created an example here just to save a little bit of time. Here we go. I'll move this to the site. I'll delete the custom report and move it here to the bottom. And that will allow me to show and visualize a Sankey chart. So material group, customer name, city, and that is all not, of course, selectable and interactable. And so you can drill down and it works. But before I publish it, I want to make sure I also include a natural language generated insight. So I will add it into the screen and I will let it analyze the dashboard. So if I come here, currently there's nothing to show. Let me increase it. You see here I can choose the AI provider, and Snowflake Cortex is available as well, which is extremely exciting. I'm going to hide the heading because I don't want to confuse it, and keep the text background actually. Let's keep it white. And now I want you to analyze the dashboard for me. And I want you to do so a bit more formal place because it's SAP data and a bit longer. And I want you to do it in a report format. Off we go. And here I have built a very simple UI alongside a natural language generated text. Now, obviously, this is just a summary, and I want this to become a little bit more helpful. So with Astrato, you have the ability to also customize the prompt. And you can tell it here, this is a SAP distribution data set. I am a fashion retailer. Please provide suggestions and advice on how to improve my business as well. And with this, you have the ability to control the output on the application layer. I'm going to use the entire dashboard as an input, and now let it generate here on the fly. So from connecting to data in Snowflake to visualizing it, connecting it, renaming it, to also providing a contextualized response around me being a fashion retailer with recommendations for business improvements, all in one single view that allows it to me to publish it to a data set and become ultimately consumable for myself and my colleagues, all on live data that sits in Snowflake. So thank you so very much for listening and showing and watching the demo, including also the not so trivial creating something from scratch. It did happen very, very quickly, and it is very, very flexible, including also the narrative here. With this, I would like to almost conclude and go to the very last slide. I think, which does matter, and for those who have followed, will hopefully agree that I don't think it's no longer anymore about self-service BI. Yes, that's the imminent pain point. That's where we're solving analytics to build and easy to consume for insights of any skill level. But the reality is you can go to so much more beyond traditional reporting, which becomes high-value data apps, getting closer to the workflow, getting closer to the operational business and the processes, allowing you to do create much more value within the same single view. And I think where it becomes quite exciting is that this is actually combined with a Snowflake data set view is turning actual data products that are not just around getting access to the data, but hands the responsibility either to teams or to organizations to ultimately drive value with the data products, either monetizable when it comes customer facing, or potentially also internally as well. So, this is an evolution where Astrato is going and what Astrato is made for today. Self-service BI is a starting point, but, you can use it, you can start wherever you find it useful, because it is a reality that maybe something that starts as a data app may become self-service, may become a dashboard, may become a PDF report. So the entry port can be wherever you want it to be. And the flexibility is what a strong UI presentation layer like Astrato offers, combined with the power of a cloud, in particular Snowflake, Databricks, and BigQuery. So with this, I thank you very much for listening in and basically seeing all the aspects of a product in a high level of detail. And with this, I thank you very much for attending. And as always, you can try Astrato out for free. Log into our website or reach out with us. We'd love to do a POC and show you your data in Astrato and what you can do with it beyond any imagination of what is possible today, and excite you as well where we can take it even further. So with this, I thank you very much for the attention and for joining this live stream. And have a great afternoon, rest of the day, or great evening, everybody. Martin Mahler from Astrato. Thank you so much for tuning in.